Hey guys, it's Sam, and in this video we are back building out our KoreOS business operating system for a service business or a productized service business. In the previous video, which you can see down below in the description, or I'll link somewhere at the top, we built a really highly functional CRM module for the business. So we've got contacts, companies, deals, sales activities like sales tasks, proposals, meetings can be collected in here, or the sales meetings data can be collected in here. So that was a really comprehensive step-by-step video that you can check out. It's around about 2 hours long if you want to build everything out from scratch with inside Airtable, including some automations. But in this video, we're going to be going over the projects module here, which is connected to our operating system, right? It's the next stage in our, I suppose, our business workflow, right? We've got the CRM function, which is all of the sales and customer relationship management. And then when we bring a client on board, they need to then move into our projects flow here. With inside this, we obviously have projects. We then have tasks. So these are all of the tasks within the business right now. And obviously, this is all dummy data, guys. So take this with a pinch of salt in regards to what you're seeing in here. But I've tried to give a little bit of a flavor of what this might feel like for a typical agency or an AI agency even. Then we've got SOPs. So with each task, if we're running a productized service, or even if we're not, we're going to have a SOP library that tells people in the team how to perform each one of these tasks, how to complete and deliver on each one of these tasks. And importantly, each one of those SOPs can be linked to an individual task within inside our project templates. So what this project template section here is, we can create new project types, like a road mapping project, a project type project, or a retainer type project. And maybe there is going to be tasks that we have to do every time we sell one of these project types. For example, a road mapping project, we've got all of these different tasks here that we need to complete. There is a description, there is who it will be assigned to, there is statuses, there is a task order, so we know in what order they need to be completed. There is also start and end dates, and then date dependencies that are calculated as well, depending on when each one of these tasks is going to be scheduled. So what we really want here as a business is to be able to add a new project when a client is signed up, and then we want to be able to automatically create all of the tasks that are for that project type. So that's what we're going to be building out here. And you can see within inside this projects section, if I open this up, you can see all of the tasks related to this project. You can see the start date and end date, the duration of each one of those tasks. Obviously, there's no data in here, but we'll show you how to put that in. And then we've got a progress bar, a start date and end date of the project, so that we can then view this in sort of like a timeline mode as well, if we want to be able to see how our projects are stacking on top of each other and what availability that we have based on start date and end date for projects. So the structure of this video is we are going to start with the data view. So within inside of this, we got projects, tasks, project templates, and SOPs. So we're going to create the fields needed for each one of those tables. Then we're going to link them all up so that they're all dependent on each other, or should I say they're all related to each other in the right way. Then we can then build the interface. So that's the second part of the video. And then from there, we can move on to a few basic automations that allow us to create projects automatically when a new project type is selected. And yeah, the goal of this system is to build all of the foundations as much as possible with inside Airtable using its native capabilities, so that we can then layer on AI and automation workflows depending on what we need for our unique business situation. Because what we're building out here should be like a good starting point for most businesses, most service-based businesses or productized service-based businesses. But you're going to want to customize it. You're going to want to add your own automation layers. You're going to want to add your own AI layer into this so that you can deliver more efficiently, higher output, more reliable output using the latest technology. So this is about the foundations. We're going to get these systems set up, because if you try and do all the automation stuff first, all the AI stuff first, without having a good system like this in place, a good foundational system that can house workflows and data correctly, you're going to get yourself into a real mess. So that is the point of what we're doing here with this KoreOS. So before we jump in, if you don't know who I am, my name is Sam Wilcox. I run a productized service agency in the web design space. And I've now got a decade's worth of experience building out systems, automations, and improving processes for a bunch of different businesses across the UK and the USA. So on this channel, what I like to do is build things that I find have been useful for myself, my business, and also my clients, and then just share what is working and the way that I think about things with you guys. I also have a free community that you can check out in the description below, where I'm going to be sharing all of these templates, this KoreOS system that we're building out today, if you want to get your hands on it, as well as a bunch of other automation templates, AI workflows, all that good stuff that you see in my other videos. If you want to check them out, you can join the community, get your hands on that stuff, and jump into some conversations. The only criteria, though, is that you do introduce yourself. We do not want lurkers who are not introducing themselves. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get on with the video. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the previous base that we built this CRM section in, and then we're going to build the project section on top of that. So let's jump over to that and get stuck in. All right, so here we've got our previous demo bit. Maybe this is a little bit too small. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so that everybody can see. Does that really make a difference? Who knows? But either way. So this is our CRM setup that we built last time. So now we're going to layer on the project stuff, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is build on a new table. And this is going to be our projects table. So if you think about the hierarchy of information here, the project is the top level in this module. So we've got projects, which contains tasks. Tasks also linked to SOPs. And then we also have project templates, which is, I suppose, kind of like a separate table that we use to pull a list of tasks from to recreate projects from. So projects is the top priority in regards to the hierarchy of information. So we'll create that one first. So we're going to go project, and let's just delete all of these for now. And then we'll leave name in as the primary field here. So we've got project name. Then the first thing that we're going to want to do is add in our related client, right? So we're going to call this field client. So who is this project for? And we're going to link this to our company's record. And we're only going to have one company per project. So we're not going to link this to multiple client records. So we're going to take that off, and then we're going to click on create field. So now we've got a project name that is linked to a specific client that we have in here, right? So we can link this project to a client. Then the next thing that we're going to want to do is put in a single select dropdown here. And this is going to be an indication of what the project type is. I say project type, I also mean like service type. So for example, in my AI agency, Natural, we do AI and automation stuff. We always need to jump in first and do a road mapping session or a road mapping project to understand exactly where a business needs help and how we're going to be best placed to make that business more efficient through operations, automation, and AI. So the type of project that we have is a road mapping type project. And then from there, we then shape an initial project for us to get started on. Maybe that's like a month or 2 months. And then maybe we move on to a retainer. So in our business, we have 3 different service or project types, but we're only going to be selling one of these at a time, and we're only going to be servicing one of these at a time. So that's why this is a single select, not a multi-select field. We don't want to sell, or we're not like setting up 3 different types of projects in one project. Hope that makes sense. So I'll use that example. We got road mapping. Then we've got a project type. So, this is a type that has like start date and an end date typically. And then we have let's just call it a retainer. So if we click create, and you're going to have different services, different project types in your business. But now we can select one of these, right? Then we're going to have a project manager, and that is going to be a user field. And that's going to give you access to the different users of your Airtable system to select as a project manager. All right. And I'm going to turn this off for now because I'm going to get inundated with emails if that is on. Then we've got a status. And again, a project is only at one status at one given time, is never at multiple statuses. So we're going to use a single select. So we're going to go status. Let's just say not started. Then if it is started, we're going to want to know whether it's either on track or if it is at risk, or if it has been completed. So there'll be our statuses. And again, you can customize the statuses for your business. Then we're going to need two fields here. So two date fields, should I say. We've got a start date. So when does the project start? And then a targeted end date. Now, if your productized service is super specific in regards to when you purchase it, X, Y, and Z happens, then you'll probably know the end date. But if your productized service involves a little bit of back and forth with a client, sometimes that end date can shift because you might be waiting on a client to give you feedback. You might be waiting on content from a client or assets. So target end date is what we use, but yours might be different. And then we're going to have a duration in days, which will allow us to set up the date dependencies. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to right click on this start date. And if you see here, we've got this option that says configure date dependencies. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to make sure we've got our projects table selected, enable date dependencies for projects. Then we can select the start date as the start date and the end date as a targeted end date. Now we don't have a duration field right now, so we're going to create that from here. And it's going to be duration. And I'm just going to put in days. I'm going to click on create field, and then you can see it's just created that new field for us here that we can put the amount of days in for the project. Actually, it automatically updates that depending on the start date and end date. So predecessor field, we're going to leave blank. We don't want that. So now you can see here, if I put the start date as 21st and then the end date as the 28th, it's automatically going to say this is an 8-day project. So we can do some automation stuff here to make sure that the start date and targeted end date is consistent, but we'll come on to that later. Now, we do also have some additional fields that we'll come back and add into the projects table later for our progress tracker and to link in our tasks, but we'll come back to that once we've configured the next table, which is our tasks table. So here we go, tasks. I'm going to create a new, we already have tasks here, which is our sales activities, really. So I'm just going to rename that as sales activities. And then we'll come back over here and we will use tasks. All right, so in our tasks, again, we're going to have a task name. I'm going to delete these. And then typically we will have a description. So this is going to be a long text field here. So a task description. So we can have a task name and then we can have more information about the task. Then we are also going to have the standard start date and end date. And we're going to set up the dependencies for that. So if I go date here, so start date, and then end date. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click, configure the date dependencies. We're going to go start date and end date. And then we're going to set a duration field here again in days for this task. So how many days do we have to complete this task? And it's going to add that duration in. The reason why we add these in is it just allows us to then use the timeline view more effectively. Next up, we're going to add the assignee. So who is this task assigned to? So we're going to go user, assignee. Then we're going to do a status field. So single select status. Let's just say to do, ready, in progress, and done. And then we're also going to add another field here. And you don't need to add this in. It depends on your setup because it is a little bit of duplication really. But I like to put a checkbox for done here. And the main reason is so that we can use that checkbox in the interface to make the interface feel more like a task management application where you're going to check off a task that's done. Which means that we need to, have some automation between done and status changes. So when status change is done, it automatically updates this done checkbox to checked, and vice versa. If we check this as done, then we need to update the status to done. So there is a little bit of like added duplication or redundancy, which you might not feel is necessary, but I'll show you the reason why when we get onto the interface part of this build. All right, so next we're going to add attachments. You may want to add files to a task. Then we're going to go with a new field called task order. And this will become apparent as to why we need this once we build out the task templates. And essentially, it's just a field that we're going to sort the tasks by so that they are in order when we're viewing the project. But we'll come on to that later. So task order, change the decimal places to 0, create that field. And then we're just going to link up our projects to these tasks, right? So if I come back over here, I'm just going to insert left. We're going to link to another record. We're going to link to projects. So a task can only be linked to one project. The one task is not going to be in this setup anyway, depending on how complex your setup is. But for us, a task is only going to be in one project. So we're going to remove allow linking to multiple records. Now, obviously, one project can have multiple tasks. So if I create this here, I can only select one project. I've got this unnamed project in here. If I come back in, and let's just call this test project. So we've got some namings in here. If I come back, so you can see test project is in here. Now, I can't add another one, right? So this task is only going to be related to this test project. But if I come over to the project, if I come over to the right-hand side, we've now got our related tasks field, and I can add multiple tasks to this project. So, one project can have many tasks, but one task can only have one project. So that's how that's set up. All right, so I'm just going to fill out these test tasks just so that we've got some data to work with here. I'm going to add all these to our test project. We don't need to add any start dates or anything just yet. But what we do want to do is come back over to our project and start to add some formula fields in, because we want to create a progress bar that we can display on the interface. If I show you that, just to, let me just bring this back up so you can see what we're building here. If I just go into the interface, and then let's go into project, and then if we go into the list view, what we want to do is create this progress bar, right? So we can see how far along this project is to completion at a glance. So to do that, we need to do some formulas. So if I come back over to our build here, let me just pull my notes over on the left-hand side. And then to build this progress bar, we're first off going to need to add 2 fields in that are roll-up fields. And a roll-up field allows us to do some calculations based off of data in other tables, right? So if I go to our tasks table here, because that is a related table to our project, we're going to create this as total tasks. We want to get all of the tasks that are related to this specific project. So this is very simple. We just want to go to our task name, and then we're going to replace unique values here by count A values. And then you can see that we now have our total tasks as 3, and we do have 3 test tasks that we created. And the next thing that we need to be able to do to create this progress bar is we need to know how many of these tasks of the total tasks are completed. So we're going to create another field, another roll-up field. We're going to go completed tasks. We're going to go tasks. And then we're going to roll up based on status, only include linked records from task tables that meet certain conditions. We're going to turn that on, and we're going to say where status is done. All right. And then again, we're going to want to change that to count A values. So you can see right now, we have 0 completed tasks and 3 total tasks. So if I come back over here, and let's just, for the sake of this, make this one done. If I come back over to projects now, you can see completed tasks is 1, total tasks is 3. So now that we have both of these fields, we can then use those in a formula to create a progress bar. So if we come in here again, add one more field, this is going to be a formula field, and this is going to be progress. And then the formula is going to be simple. It's going to be completed tasks divided by total tasks. And then if we come over to the formatting, we're going to format this as a percentage, and we're going to display it as a progress bar. And that's all that we're going to do. We click create field, and you can see our progress bar is in action. These ones aren't working because there's no tasks divided by no tasks. So we get an NaN here. But yeah, you can see if I come over to tasks now, if I mark this one as done as well, you see our progress bar moves along. So pretty cool, because now we can use this on the front end and the interface in the project section. Okay, so now we've got projects and tasks pretty much done. So we now need to build out the project templates table. And this is just going to be where we house all of our template project tasks. So project templates, I can spell that right. But each record in this is actually a task, right? Because we're going to have rows for each task, and then we're going to group them by a project type. So if I click on save, let's remove these fields. So here we're going to have the task name. Then we're going to have, again, it's like the same fields that we have in tasks here, right? So we've got the project. We're not going to have the project in because at this point in the template, it's not associated with any client projects. But we're going to have description, start date, end date, duration days. Can you copy this stuff? I don't think you can now. That would be awesome if you could just highlight that and then copy it over. But yeah, so we're going to do long text description. Then we're going to go start date. So let's add in our date field, and we'll go start date. Let's add in our end date. Then we're going to want we'll leave the duration just for now. We're going to do assignee and then status. So let's go user and then assignee. Then we'll have the status. And this was to mirror the previous field, right? And so if I just create this, what do we have? We had to do, ready, in progress, and done. So here we will have the same to do, ready, in progress, and done. Then we've got attachments and we've got task order, right? So attachments. Now we don't need to add in the checkbox field in this template because we're not using the templates as to-do lists in the front end. And that's what the checkbox is for, as we'll see later. So attachments. And then task order, which is going to be a number. So remove the decimals and we'll go task order. Okay, so now we have a bunch of template tasks. There is one other field here, which is project type, right? So we want to go single select again, project type. And then we're going to mirror our project types. So we had road mapping, we had project, and we had retainer. All right, so let's say we have a bunch of tasks that are assigned to the road mapping project type, so that whenever a new project that is a road mapping project is created, we want to automatically create all of those tasks, pull over the descriptions, pull over the assignees, the status updates, all of that good stuff, right? So that's what we're going to try and do now. So I'm just going to copy over some data just so we don't have to type everything in from scratch. So if I pull in this stuff here from my demo account, so now we've got these tasks here, and there's about 10 of these tasks. I can't see. Yeah, we got 11 tasks, sorry. Then I'm going to update the status here to do on all of these. I'm going to assign all these to myself because I'm the only one in this base, but you would assign these to your team members that need to do each one of these tasks. The start date and end date, we're going to leave blank for now. And attachments here's where you could put any attachments that are standard for all of the, every time this task needs to get done. And then we're going to set the project type here as road mapping, right? And then I'm going to pull this down. And these are in order, right? So these tasks are in order. Each one of these gets completed and then moved on to the next one. So what we want to do is essentially put our task order in here. And the reason that we do that is because when we're going to do the automation to make sure that all of these tasks get created, sometimes the automation can just create the tasks in a random order and then it puts them in our new project in a random order, but we want to be able to just filter and make sure that it stays in order. So that's why we have this task order here, as you'll see soon. Now, as I've just looked at my notes here, I just realized that as I was copying these fields over from the tasks side of things here, I've obviously added in the start date and end date. We actually don't need that in the projects template. So my apologies. Let me delete those two. And what we do need is a couple of number fields that allow us to calculate when the start and end date should be when this project template gets created in a new project. So let me explain. So the first one that we're going to have is a offset amount of days. So this field here, I'm going to add a description into here. This field is the amount of days from the project start date that this task will be due. So for example, let's say if we have a start date for the project on the 1st of May, if we have an offset amount of days on the kickoff meeting as 1, then that means that this task will then be due on the 2nd of May. So the field is the amount of days from the project start date that the task is due. Hope that makes sense. If you can think of a better way to name this field, by the way, drop it in the comments below because, I can't think of one. But we've got an offset amount of days from project start date. Then the next one is another number field. And this is, again, the duration of the task. And that's going to allow us to calculate the end date. So the start date and the end date of the task can then be calculated by these two numbers. So we've got amount of days. We'll remove the decimal from this. Again, this is a number. So let's just say each one of these tasks just takes 1 day. I'm going to pull all these down. And then I'm just going to, just for ease of this example, I'm just going to say that each one of these is due kind of the day after the next, right? So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days from the project start date, 6 days from the project start date, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. You get the idea. So let's just remove our decimal here. Let's get rid of that. So now we've got this field that we can use to calculate the start date of the task based on the project start date. And this field, which then allows us to calculate the end date of the task based off of the start date that this field allows us to calculate. Hope that makes sense. I'm sure it will all make sense when we come around to building the automation a little bit later on. So just so that we've got some extra data and you can see how this works, I'm just going to add in a few more tasks here. And what we'll do with these ones is we'll put these as a project type, so these aren't in our road mapping project template. So now we've got all of this stuff here that allows us to just get a bit more visual with how this system would actually run. I'll mark that down. And let's just grab a few of these. Yeah, it's just for demo purposes, so we'll just pop those in there. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And what I like to do, just even in the data layer here, is just group this by project type. So if we group this by project type, we can now very easily see that, hey, these are all of the tasks that are in our road mapping template. And these are all the tasks within our project type template. And then we can just add and remove tasks very easily from here. And again, in regards to the task order for the project stuff, if these are in order, you're going to want to do that. Put the order in. And then you can sort these by the task order as well, if you would like to, so that they always just stay in order. Now, the interface that we build will be quite similar to this data layer, right? It's going to look similar to how we've got this data grid set up, but it allows us to, put some certain permissions on what can be adjusted, what can't be adjusted on the front end, so that our team can use it in the way that suits them. The final table that we need to create here is for our SOPs, right? We're running a productized service, or even if we're not running a productized service, in most cases, if you've got task templates and you've got a specific type of project that you are building out, you're going to have SOPs. You're going to have SOPs, which are the documents that tell your team how to complete the tasks. If you don't have SOPs, I would highly recommend building out your SOPs. That's going to allow you to systemize your business and scale it a lot easier. So let's create our SOPs table. And then what we're going to do is we're going to link these to our project templates so that when a new project is created, we can also pull through the SOPs and our team can use them to complete whatever they need to do. So here we've got the SOP title. That's what we're going to call this. Then we're going to have a video walkthrough. So let's say, for example, you use Loom or something similar to record video walkthroughs. And you can also link that in here. Then we're going to have like the content of the SOP. So this is where you're going to have the instructions on how to perform the task. This is going to be a long text because it's likely going to be a bunch of bullet points. It's going to be a step-by-step process that somebody needs to follow. So this will be the content. And within this as well, you could enable rich text formatting so that you can actually do headers and bullet points and all that kind of good stuff inside this field on the front end. Then we're going to have a category because each one of your SOPs is going to be in a category, or it should be, right? You might have a bunch of onboarding SOPs. So how do we onboard a new client? These are the SOPs for that process. How do we do all of our road mapping tasks? You can have a SOP category for those. And that's going to allow us to filter on the front end a little bit easier when we're looking for our SOPs without them getting all messed together in one big pile. So we're going to have a single select here. We're going to call this category. And then you might have, for example, onboarding. Let's just say road mapping. And these can follow our project types, our service types. So we'll have project, development, or something like this. Then we might have like client communications, right? So these are SOPs or our documents on how we communicate with clients. So we got our categories. And then because these SOPs are essentially kind of like documents that live inside of Airtable, we want to know who created it, when was it last modified, and who by. So we want to add all of those fields in. So we're going to have created by. We're going to have created at. Then we're going to have last modified by. And then last modified at. So I'm just going to copy over some dummy data here just so we've got something to work with. You can also as well add in some cover art for these. So I'll do that just because it does look a little bit nicer. We can use an attachment field. So cover art. I'll show you how we use that a little bit later. But I'm just going to grab a few examples here. I'm going to paste them in. All right, so we've got our titles, our cover art, our video walkthrough, which is just an example URL. Then we've got some content, our categories. So now we've got our SOPs in here as well. All right, so we've done a good job of setting up our data tables. The next thing that we're going to do is go into the interface layer. We're going to build out this project management interface layer, and then we'll wrap it up with some automations which allow us to automatically create those new projects from the project templates task list. So at the top, if we go to interfaces, we will find here the previous CRM interface that we built. I'm going to click on, just expand that out a little bit. I'm going to click on the top left, drop down here, and then click on Edit Pages. And you can see we've got this CRM interface. We're not touching that today. We did that in the previous video. I'm going to click Create a New Interface. And then we're going to call this one, let's just call this project or project management. And then we'll keep that little file icon, seems that is fitting. And the first thing we're going to do is just add a list in. And then we're going to pull in the projects table and then click finish. So now if I just quickly publish this, one of the things I like about these Airtable interfaces is that with each new interface that you create on the base, it kind of sections it out on the left-hand side. So we've got all the CRM stuff in one place here, and then we can have the project management stuff in the next place. And then we're also going to have like the service stuff in the final place as well. And you can also build like a dashboards section as well. So it keeps everything nice and tidy on the left-hand side. And by doing that, by creating a different interface, you can restrict who gets access to what interface in your team. So for example, if you wanted to create a separate type of project management interface that's based on this, but you only want to show certain things, you can do that and then assign that interface to specific team members. So, there are roles and responsibilities that you can assign to specific interfaces, which is quite nice. All right, we got our projects here, looking quite basic at the minute. So if we click into the top and then go to edit pages, what we want to do is make this a little bit more of a cohesive sort of high-level view of the projects. So I'm going to click into the projects section here. And then the first thing that we're going to do is turn on edit records inline and then add/delete records inline. And again, if I publish this and go back, what that allows us to do is it just allows us to edit things inline on the page without having to click into the individual project item. So I'm just going to put in here like road mapping project. These are empty records that we had before, right? Let's just put development project. So they don't have any tasks in them or anything right now. They don't have any data. I will assign this to the only client that we have in this database. And I'm going to leave the project type on these for now. And then I'm going to set the project manager as me, just so we got some data to work with here visually. There was also, a lot of this stuff will just be done automatically. So we can automatically create the client and assign the client based off of in the CRM when a deal gets moved to one, we could create an automation that automatically creates a project depending on what type of project has been sold here. We could add a project type field into the CRM section to then build that automation across. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I'm just trying to show you how you can just link all these modules together and automate a bunch of workflows. But we're just getting the foundations in place, the foundation of the system in place so that we can actually build on top of that in the future. So now we've got this. I'm going to go back into the edit pages. You kind of flip between this quite regularly. I'll always kind of flip between the edit page and then the published page just so I can see what it actually looks like on the front end. So there are a few fields that we want to add to this front end, right? So if I click back onto this table and then I'm going to click on fields, what we're going to do is we're going to add in our project start date, our target end date. We're going to add the status. And then we're also, if I scroll down here, we want to add our progress bar in, right? So now that we can move all these around. So if I come in and move the progress, I like to have the start date and then the progress towards the target end date. The project manager status, let's put that in here as well. And then let's shrink a load of these down so it's actually visible. So we've got the project type, we've got the status, we've got the project manager, the start date, and then we've got the progress, and then the target end date. Nice. So if I click on publish, if we take a look at this, this is what it would start to look like in your projects section. Now we can click on here to add a new project. I'm not going to do that just yet, but currently, we can only see the projects. We want to be able to see the tasks, right? So if I come back into here, here's where we can get a little bit more advanced with this. So if you click on this, we've got this hierarchy option here, which gives us access to levels. So if I click on this, we're one level right now. And what we're going to do is enable a nested record. Oh, we don't do that here. It's at the page level, sorry. So if I just come out, You'll notice sometimes you'll do that, right? You'll click on this one and then you're trying to edit stuff, but for some reason it has it here, but you can only actually edit it from the page section here. So now here in the data, we have access to the levels. So if I click on one level here, open this up, we're going to click on add a level below. So we got our projects at the top, as we said right at the beginning, and then underneath, we're going to have our tasks. So now you can see, if I close this, I'm going to click on publish. And you can see we've got all of our projects here. And then if I open this test project up, we've got our test tasks in here as well. But the way that this is formatted, this table here, the tasks table, isn't very useful either. We want to see the status, the start date, all that kind of good stuff. So if I come back into edit pages, there's a couple of things I'm going to do. If I click on this table now, by default, I want to collapse all of these projects. I don't want them to be open by default, so I'm going to collapse them so that we have to manually go into them. So then what we're going to do is click on fields, and now we can select the level for the fields that we want to add or remove. So you can see if I go to projects, these are the fields that we've got in this top level of the projects here. We added these before. Now I'm going to change this to level 1, which is tasks. Now we can start to add in the other fields related to tasks. Who is it assigned to? You can see that's just been added in. Is it done? Or do we want to complete it from this view, which we'll come on to? The start date, the end date. We don't need to add the project because it's already linked to the project here. And the status. That's kind of about all that we need. Now I'm going to move done all the way to the beginning. Then we've got the task name. Let's just shorten this right down. You got the task name, then you got the assignee, then you got the start date, the end date, and then you got the status, right? So if I publish this now, if I open this up, now we can see we've got our tasks in here. And the reason why I added in the checkbox into the tasks as well as the status field before is so that you can actually use this on the front end to complete a task, which is a lot more like a task management software. But if you don't want to add that in, because it is kind of duplication of the status being done, you can just use the status field and move it down to done, right? It's no big deal. But yeah, it has that feel of having a project management software. But you'd have to build an automation in so that when we click on this, it updates the status to done automatically. So let's just put some extra data in here just so it looks a little bit more full. We've got the start date here, and then end date. So you can see what this starts to look like. You'll be able to click into a project, see what's where, and at a glance, have a very high level view of where your projects are at, what still needs to be done, and what is in progress. Let's say this one is in progress. All right, now you can see here that it's also organized this in a strange way. So we got test task 1, test task 2, test task 3. And this is the reason why we have that task order field that we built before. So if I click again into this, I'm going to come to sort by, and we're on level 1 tasks, and we're going to sort it by task order from 1 to 9. If I click on publish, it's not moved that. Maybe we don't have let's go back over to the data here in tasks. We don't have an order. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and that will be taken care of automatically when we build the automation at the end. But just to show you now, you can see now it's organized it by the task order. And that's something we'll populate automatically. So there's one extra level of filtration that we want to put on top of this interface. And I like to just add this so that it's really quick and easy to use. At the top of the page here, I like to use these filters, these tab filters. Because really, I want to see all of the active projects. I don't want to be necessarily looking at all projects that the company has done historically, because there might be a lot in there. So we're going to separate these out, right? If I click on this tab here, I'm going to call this active. And we're going to filter this by projects that have a status is either on track, because either on track or at risk. If it's not started, I don't want to know. If it's completed, I don't want to know. I just want to know the ones that are currently active. Now we can see in our test data, we don't have that status on any of the projects. So it's now prompting us to add a project. So if I just come into the data here, come over to projects, and then let's set the status of this one as on track. And then we can set these ones as not started, right? Come back over to our interface. Now you can see in our active filter, now we have our test project and our test project only. So let's build out the rest of these filters. We've got our all projects. That is, pretty obvious what that is. I would just remove projects and just have it as all. We're going to add a second one here, which is upcoming. We're going to filter this by status is not started. And then we'll add a final one, which is done or completed. We'll filter that by status is completed. Nothing in the completed status just yet. So again, if we publish, now we've got this really quick and easy to use filter of active, upcoming projects, completed, and all. One final thing that you'll also probably want to do is add in another view here on this projects tab, which is a timeline view. So if I bring over the one that we were using at the beginning, so this is the other account that I've got with all this stuff already built out, and is in the community as well, by the way. So if you want to join the community, take a look in the description below. If you just want to copy this whole template, go ahead. So we've got our timeline here. Now you can see, we can see that there are different projects kind of stacked up across a timeline. So we're going to also create that, and you can use the filters here as well, right? So active, complete, all in the same timeline view. So if we go back to our edit pages, click on the page, and then we're going to click on visualizations here. We're going to add a timeline view. And then we need to click on the timeline view to start editing it. Now it's already applied our filters, so I'm just going to click on all here, and we'll get all of our projects in one place. And then if we click on this timeline view, we've got a bunch of different options here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is a whole bunch of different options that we can use to customize the appearance here. The first thing I like to do is use this Gantt layout because it lists the project names on the left-hand side. It makes it a little bit easier, I think, to sort of see which bar is related to which. And then we don't need to have the project name on here, right? So if we come onto fields, we don't need to have the project name on there. We don't need to have the project type on there. We don't need to have the status. We can have the project manager and the client. We don't need the progress bar or any of this stuff. And that also comes into the labels here as well. So we don't need the name. We'll have the client, the client and the project type. The status we'll remove. We'll take the project manager. We'll put the project manager on. You can customize this however you want, obviously, guys. But there we go. So this is the test project for natural road mapping, and Sam is the person in charge. And then you can color this by the status, right? Or the project type. So, maybe you have at risk as red, and then it's easy to see on the timeline that this project is at risk. A bunch of stuff in here, I'll let you guys play around with that and set this up how you want, but it's really straightforward. You just click on this and then start editing how you want this to appear through the settings on the right-hand side. So if we click publish, you can see here it says C2 projects hidden. Now these ones aren't on the timeline because we haven't put any dates in. So if we come back over to our list view, and if we put a start date as here, and then an end date as here, and then a start date as here, and then an end date as here, we can come back to our timeline. And now you can see these other projects are in here, right? So yeah, I really like the timeline view just to get a good overview of where projects are at. So it makes it a lot easier to plan company resources and know exactly, what projects are upcoming and where projects are at. Now we've got the projects built. Let's move on to the next section of this, which is going to be the tasks section, and then we'll do the project templates section. So that can be managed from the front end as well. So we come back into our edit view. We're going to click on this plus here. We're going to click on add new page. Then very simply, we're just going to use a simple list for the tasks. I like to use this as a very basic list of items. And the reason being is because Airtable has really good filtering, grouping, sorting, etc. built inside this interface. So this task area is kind of like a catch-all for all of the tasks that live within the business, so all different stages. And you can slice and dice them and filter it and create your own lists and see where things are at very, very easily. So if we click onto the page here, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few drop downs in. So I'm going to, first off, edit this one. I don't want to have this set by project. Actually, let's come back to that in a second. Let's do the table here first, because then it will allow us to make these filters or create these filters really easily. So what we're going to do is change the fields in here. We've got the name, we've got what project the task is assigned to. We've got a description of the task. We don't want that right now because we will get the task description when we click into the task. So we want the start date. We want the assignee. We want to know whether it's done or not. And we want to be able to use this done checkbox in the UI. So we're going to add that in. Squish all this down a little bit. We want the end date in there as well. We definitely want the status, and we can also throw in the duration of days as well. So the only thing that we're not kind of showing on this here is the attachments, the description, and the task order, because that's more task detail stuff that you would get if you wanted to click into a task and complete a task. So here we now have all of these fields. Let's take a quick look at this. If we click on publish, take us to the interface. All right, so we need to just reorganize some of these fields a little bit. We're going to put the status a little bit further up, the assignee a little bit further up, the start date and end date and the duration. So that makes sense. Click on publish. And you can see we've now got this task list. This is just all of the test tasks that we have set up so far. Now, what I like to do here is just have a very easy view, a group of project. So it's going to group them by the project. Then in the tasks section here, what we're going to do is add those filters in. So let me just go back to 0 here. We don't want any of these filters. Then I'm going to add in the drop downs. So we've got projects. I don't care for that, right? I want to know assignee. So I might want to filter all of these tasks by the assignees. Then I'm going to add another one. We might want to sort by status. And we might want to sort by end date, right? Like filter by end date. So if you publish these, now it's very easy for us to say, okay, show us all of the tasks assigned to Sam in the status of in progress with the end date is after today, right? Or before today. So you can see the overdue ones. These drop downs just make it super easy for you to filter very, very quickly through the whole list of tasks within inside the business. Obviously, the effect is lost a little bit here because we've only got 3 tasks in here, so you're not really getting the full effect. But this is a really nice way of just slicing and dicing all of your tasks. So that's it. We're keeping it simple for this tasks view. Let's now go on to the project templates view. So I'm going to click on this again. I'm going to open up another list. I'm going to go down to project templates. And essentially, we're going to kind of copy what we got going on in the data view, but just put this on the front end on the interface, right? So that people can actually use this. So first off, I'm going to click into, I'm going to click into this section here. Then we're going to group this by the project type. So now you can see we've got our road mapping task list, we've got our project task list. Then here we've got the fields that we want to add in. So we're going to add the assignee. We're going to add the status. We're going to add the task order. We're going to make sure that all of this stuff can be edited inline, can add and delete records inline. Then we're going to sort all of this by the task order from 1 to 9. And then we're going to click publish so we can just see what that looks like. Okay, so now we've got our description, which we don't kind of need the description here. I'll get rid of that in a second. We've got the offset amount of days, the amount of days to complete the task, the assignee, the status, and the task order. And all this stuff can be edited, right? So let's just go back into our edit pages. We don't want the description. So let's get rid of the description there. And we click publish again. So super simple stuff. If we wanted to add an extra task to this road mapping project, we click on add task and then just say testing task. It's going to be offset amount of days is going to be 12. It takes another day to complete. It's going to be assigned to me. It's going to have a default status of to do. And then we're going to make this number 12, right? So it adds that into the bottom of our task list. So now this is our template road mapping project task list. One thing you'll notice here is that, okay, well, what if we do want to edit the description and add some attachments and connect the SOPs, right? Then we need to be able to click into this and edit it, which is something that we can't do at the minute. So I'm going to come back into edit pages, click on this box here, and then you'll see here that I can click on open. And then it says, do you want to allow users to open record details, which we do. And then it automatically creates this side panel view of the task details that we can customize, right? So here we've got the task description. None of this stuff here is editable right now. It all lives within inside this group that you can see. If I click here, this all lives within inside this group. You got the task name up here. None of this is editable. To make it editable, we're just going to click on this task name. I'm going to click on editable. Then I'm going to click on the group here, and then I'm going to make all of that editable. Just going to check the fields. Is there anything that's hidden? No, there isn't. Then we're going to organize this a little bit. So we'll go amount of days. Who is this assigned to? What is the default status? Then we've got the task description, the project type, and the task order, right? So now we've got like a really nice, very simple task template here that we can use to create our project with. So if I click on publish, when we come here now, I can click on any of these tasks and I can edit the details from inside this task. I can drop attachments in here that can be used in the template. So super simple and really powerful, right? So this is now how we can add and remove. If we wanted to delete something from this task list, we can use these checkboxes down here. We can right click on the task and then we can delete it. Very, very simple. Now we've got the majority of our sections done. The last thing that we want to add in is if we go back to edit pages, we want to add our SOPs in. And for this one, we're going to use a gallery. So I'm going to use a gallery here, click on next. Then I'm going to select our SOPs table. Obviously, I imported some just examples, some dummy data here before so that we can work with something. Now, if I click onto our gallery view here, we're just going to change the way that these cards look because we don't need to have all of this information in each one of these cards. You're going to want to click into the SOP to access that information and to edit it. So on the fields, we don't need the video walkthrough. We don't need the content. We just need the name and we just need the cover art, really. So where's this being pulled from right now? I'll do this later. Title field is SOP. Oh yeah, we don't need that cover art there because it's being shown there, right? That's exactly what it is. So we don't have any fields that are being shown on the card. If you wanted to, you could put the category on there. There you go. So we got the categories on there. That makes sense. And then now if we click on this, it's going to have that pop up for us again. We'll click allow, and then you'll see it's going to open up the SOP, kind of like it did with the task before. But for this SOP view, what I like to do is use a full screen page style. All right. So now if we publish this, we could just take a quick look at this. We have our SOPs all here. If I click on this, it's going to open up the SOP. We've got the content of the SOP here. So like these would be the instructions. We've got the video walkthrough link. We've got the cover art and the category. So we want to customize this a little bit. We need to make it editable. So again, we're going to click on the title here. We'll make that editable so that somebody can jump in here and change the title if they want to. I'm just going to make it large rather than extra large. Now we have the content here and all of this stuff. I'm going to click on this group. I'm going to make everything editable here. I'm going to move the cover art down to kind of in the way. And then we also have kind of these system fields here, right? I like to add those to a separate group So I'm just going to click add group. And then I'm going to move these into that new group. So we're going to have created by, created at, last modified by, last modified at. And then I'm just going to section that off with a background color, and we're just going to call this record info. Because this stuff isn't editable, right? This is just system stuff. So I'm just going to move that down there out the way. So now we have our editable SOP. We've got the title, we've got the category, we've got the walkthrough, and then we've got the contents. These would be the instructions on how to complete the task. All in here, nice and easy to manage. So that's all saved in. You can also have the comments enabled on the right-hand side as well. So if somebody wants to leave a comment, if you want team members to leave comments and ask questions about this SOP, you can have that on here. If you don't want to have that, it's very easy. Come into here and you just turn comments off. And that will remove that comments section. And that's the same with any record in Airtable. When you're setting up interfaces, you can just turn the comments on or off. Super simple. So if I come back to SOPs, we kind of got like a nice little setup going on here now. But I like to very easily filter between the different categories. So on the main page here, if we click here, we're going to set up filters again, the tab filters, right? So now I click the tab filters on, and we're going to click on this tab. I'm going to call this all. Actually, we'll leave that one as all because it's already set up as that. So I'm just going to call this one onboarding. And then we're going to filter by category is onboarding. We've got another one called road mapping. And we're going to filter that by category is road mapping. And then this one's going to be all, right? So you get the idea. I won't create all of them, but you can create all of the tab filters that you want to. So if I click publish now, we have a very nice system here that allows us to just check out the onboarding SOPs, the road mapping SOPs, or if I want to see all of the SOPs, I can click on all SOPs. And yeah, you can click into each one of these to edit them, to add stuff in. Now, the cool thing here is if we go back to our data, and then if we go into project templates, these are each one of our tasks, right? And I want to assign an SOP to a task so that when somebody has to do the systems and tools audit, they have an SOP that is attached to that task that makes it very easy to follow steps A, B, and C so they know exactly how to complete the task and what they need to do to mark that task complete. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add in a field. I'm going to link this to another record. I'm going to link it to SOPs. Now, a task can be linked to multiple SOPs because maybe there is multiple process documents that need to be linked to one task. I would try and keep it one-to-one if I was you, just to make things a little bit easier. But theoretically, you could link multiple SOPs to one task, right? So I'm going to create that field. And now we can link our SOPs to our project template tasks. So let's just link a couple up. You can see here, I'm just putting any old SOP in just so you can get a good idea. And then the same thing, we're going to do the same thing in tasks as well, right? So in here, next to attachments, we're going to link another record. We're going to link SOPs. Create that field. And now, again, that is set up so that we can link the SOPs to those tasks. So if I come over to our interface now, I'm going to come back into project templates. If I open up this kickoff and context gathering, the SOP isn't shown in here right now. So I just want to edit this page. And then if I click on this group here, we can come into fields and then we can add the SOPs. And again, this is editable from inside this project task template. So I publish this. And let's say we create another SOP I want to link. I can just click on add record and I can also add that one in. So now we've got two SOPs linked to this kickoff and context gathering task. All right. I think we are pretty much there. If I come back to, let me just double check here, make sure that we've got everything that we need. If we come into lists, we need to be able to open up these projects, right? So the same way we just did with SOPs and tasks, we need to be able to open up our projects. So if I click on edit page, I'm going to click on open here, and then that throws up our interface builder. And again, it always defaults to this kind of like side view, this slide out view of the task. For looking at the project, again, I like to use the full screen. So if I just publish this just to check it and see what it looks like, quite basic right now. So we need to add a little bit of finesse to this page. So if I click on edit pages, there's a few different things that I want to do here. The first off is I want to create a group for all of the for the project progress, right? Project progress. And I'm going to color this. So I'm going to go show background color. And then inside here, I want to put the progress bar. And I want to put the completed tasks. And I also want to put the total tasks in here as well. So let me just make sure we've got that. Yeah, total tasks and completed tasks. And I'm going to move this group, I'm going to move this up to the top. So when we look at the road mapping project, I want to get hit with the progress bar first at the top, and then I want to see the completed tasks and the total tasks. And then I want to go into the project detail down here, right? Which is, if I click on this group, I'm going to show this group title. I'm going to put project info. I'm going to change this client field style here. The project type is not selected, so we're going to add some stuff in a second. I'm going to put the status here as well, and the project manager here. We got the start date and the target end date. And we've got the duration of the project. Let me just drop that in there. Now this tasks field here, this is where it would list all of the tasks assigned to this project. So if I just publish this, and we'll go into the other project that's actually got a few tasks in there, I'm show you what I mean. So if I go into this test project, I'm going to open this up. Now you can see this is coming together, right? So if I open up this edit pages, you can see now the project progress is up the top. We've got the project info. And then we've got these tasks list down here. I don't like this layout of tasks in this field. So what I like to do personally is I like to have it as like a workable task table, just like how tasks exist in here, or just like how tasks exist inside here, right? I like to have this kind of setup when I'm looking at tasks. So if I open up this guy again, I'm going to click on this tasks field, and I'm going to change it to a view. And now you can see it then creates a view of tasks, and it's visualizing it as a list, kind of like how it is on our tasks page. And in here, I can do all of the things that I can do on the list view in the other pages. So I can click on this list. I can then add in the fields that I want to see. So I want to see who the tasks are assigned to. I don't want to see the description because that's too much detail. I want to see the start date and the end date and the status. Right, so let me move all of those things over. And then we start building up a nice picture of this project from one simple view. And again, I'm just going to turn off this description here. We don't need this description. Maybe I don't need to actually. I think it already will do that. Yeah, so now we've got, in our project view, we've got our project progress, we've got our project info, where we can add all of our project details here, and then we've got our task list. Now, none of this is editable right now, so we want to click on Edit Pages, and then we're just going to make this editable. Then we're going to make tasks editable as well. To do that, we need to click onto our table, and then we're going to need to go on Edit Records Inline, add or delete records inline if we want to be able to just add tasks from here to make things really easy. And then again, we're going to have the click into record details so that we can open up a task from within inside a project, right? Because your team is going to want to access the tasks in different ways. This just allows us to be able to do that. And from a UI perspective, I mentioned this in the last video, in the CRM video that we did. There's kind of two levels that you want to go down, right? So if you are at this level here, we're going to click on projects, and then we've got a list of all of our projects. If we open up a project, we want to have a full page view in most cases, not always, but in most cases. And then if I open up another item from within inside this view, like a task, we want that to slide out from the right-hand side so that it is clear that, hey, I'm viewing this task from within inside this project. But we don't want to be able to then click from here into something else like this project or the company or something like that. So it just goes 2 to 3 levels deep, and that's it. So again, you could customize this view of the task details, but just to save some time, I'm not going to go into that in this video. Hopefully you can kind of get the idea of how you would do that by now, because I've kind of shown you a way of like editing all of these pages. And you would do the same on tasks as well. So just how we've done on projects, we've click this so that you can open it up. You would go into tasks, click in here, edit pages, and then make it so that when you click on a task, it opens up the task details. And then again, you can customize all this and make it look all good for yourself. So I'm going to click on publish. We're pretty good for this project management interface now, right? So we got our projects at a high level and we can filter them very easily. We've then got our task list, which is our full task list of all the tasks in the business, completed, to do, everything. And we can filter, slice and dice to create the lists that we want to and get the views that we want to. Then we've got our project templates. So inside here, we can add and change our tasks inside our project templates. Then we've got our SOPs. One thing that we needed to do here actually is make it so that we can add new SOPs. So if I click in here, add records from a form, it's going to add a little button up here, and then we can say add SOP, right? So we can call this new SOP, click on publish, and now we can click on this to create a new SOP. We can put all of the details in here that we want to. And we can customize this form to make it what you want. Like, for example, we don't need this tasks field in here. We probably don't need this project templates in here either, though you could leave that in. So yeah, if I just quickly put this in, so like test SOP, video walkthrough, test.com, here's some content, category. We're going to assign this to our project template task for tool analysis. We're going to click create. Now you can see our new test SOP has been created and we can edit it from within inside. All right, super simple. Really powerful stuff with these Airtable interfaces. Next up, just to wrap this video up, because I'm aware that it's been going on for a while now, we're going to jump on to some automations. And what that's going to do is just allow us to automate some of the task statuses when tasks get completed. And it's also going to allow us to create a new project, select the project type like road mapping, and then have this project auto-populate with all of the road mapping tasks, automatically set the due dates, the start date, the end date, and all that good stuff based on the project start and end date. So let's jump into that next and get this one wrapped up. All right, so let's go over to our view data screen. And we're going to want to kick off with an automation. If I click on add a new automation, click on refresh this page. I keep getting that error for some reason at some point in here. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but it seems to keep bugging out and asking me to reset the page when I'm trying to create a new automation. Now, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make it so that in the interface, when I am creating a project, I want to add all of my stuff in, my start date, my end date, all of that good stuff. And then when I select the project type as road mapping, project, or retainer, I want it to replicate that project template and all of the tasks inside the project template. So all of these tasks here, I want that to go inside of our new project that we created. So inside the automation, we're going to click on the trigger as when a record matches conditions. And we're going to start with the projects table, right? Then we are going to go when project type is not empty. So as soon as there is a project type selected, this is going to kick off. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to use the find records action, because what we want to do now is go into the project templates table, and we're going to find records based on a condition. And that condition is where the project type is, and I'm going to click on this little cog here to make this dynamic. Select dynamic, where the project type of the project templates matches the project type name of our project that we've just created. Now, if I test this action, click on run a test, we've got our test project here. And you can see that there are a bunch of tasks that it found that have the same type as the project that we've created. So the next thing that we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to take that list. So we've got a list of tasks or template tasks that we've created here. And we want to create those tasks and assign them to our project. So to do that, we're going to use a repeating group logic. And this is going to run through each item on that list, each task on that list, and perform a function. So it's now asking us to select the list. If I click on this, I can select the list here as our found records. So we're going to use that list of tasks that it found from this step here. And then the SOPs, we will pull in from the current items list of SOPs. And we can use the names there for that. So now, if we turn this bad boy on, what's going to happen here is we should see, if we go into the interface, now we've got our development our development project here. I'm just going to use this road mapping option. Once that project type is not empty, now you can see it is creating all of the tasks for us automatically like magic, right? Super, super cool. Same for this one. If I select the project, if I open this up, it's going to create the tasks that are in our project templates here. So again, that's what it's doing. It's looping through these tasks here, and then it is creating those inside our new project, and it's assigning those tasks to our new project. And these are all organized because we set the interface up before, and these are all organized by task order so that they drop in at the right time. Great, that's step one done. Pretty simple up until now. This bit was quite easy to build. This bit was quite easy to implement. When you get into dependencies here and you're trying to build out automations to populate projects like this, Airtable runs up against some of its barriers and some of its limitations. And I pushed it to the absolute limit when it comes to automating a project template with date dependencies, with task dependencies, all trying to be done with inside of the native framework of Airtable. What I mean by that is, if I come into the automations, with inside the automation steps like this, you can't actually currently, the way that Airtable is set up, you can't set up dependencies. We'll go down a little bit of a side rabbit hole here, guys, so bear with me a second. But what I really wanted is to set tasks that are dependent on other tasks being completed so that those tasks then update the status of the now available tasks after the previous or the predecessors have been completed. But that's not possible to do with automations in here without using scripts and custom code. And that's not what I want KoreOS to be. That's not what we're building here. We're trying to build a foundational system that is beginner ready, that you can then build on top of, and you can layer on customizations, automations. So we're not going to cover all that stuff in this video, but it can be done, but just not within kind of like the no-code click and drag and drop editor style of the automation builder in Airtable. So what we've actually settled for instead is a system whereby what we can do is automatically calculate what the start date of each one of these newly created tasks should be, depending on what the start date of the project is, and then the offset days that we put into the project templates earlier on. So these offset days here and the amount of days that the task takes to complete. So that's what we'll do now, and then I'll show you what I mean. It'll become a little bit clearer. So thanks for sticking with me through that rabbit hole there. But what I'm going to do, because I want to be able to show you this afterwards, I'm just going to click all of these. I'm going to delete all of these tasks. We'll do the same here, because I want to show you the effect of what we're building with this next part. So if I come into Edit Pages, I'm going to click on Automations. Actually, sorry, before we do that, we're going to come back into Tasks, and we need to create a couple more fields here. So we're getting into advanced territory, so feel free to skip this part if you want to. But for you nerds out there, this is how you can automate start dates, end dates, and some dependency stuff. So if we come back to our tasks, let me just check my notes here and make sure that we've got everything that we need. We need to create a couple of extra fields. So we need to store the offset days that we created in our project templates. So our offset amount of days here. We also need to store that inside the task, just so that we can use it in a calculation. So I'm just going to create a number field. I'm just going to call this offset days. Okay, so now we need to pull through the project start date from the project. So I'm going to click on here, insert right, and we're going to use a lookup field here. And we're going to pull through the related projects start date. And we call this project start date. Then from here, I'm going to add one more field to the right. I'm going to add this as a formula. Now, I'm not going to pretend to understand exactly how this formula works, guys, but I use ChatGPT to help me figure this one out. We've got our calculated start date field. I'm going to save that in. And essentially what that's doing is it's taking the project start date. It's understanding how many offset days are from this project start date, and then it's giving us a start date that is calculated for the task. All right. So spicy stuff. But if you see, if I add in an offset day here as like 1, it will then calculate the start date. Now I'm going to edit this because we don't need the time. I'm going to keep the time zone in. I like to keep the time zone in there and then save that. So now you can see here, if I was to change the offset days, it's going to update the calculated start date. But what we want to do is we want to actually pull that start date through into the actual start date field here so that it can calculate the duration and the end date whenever we create the tasks from the project template. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is come back to our automation, and we're going to open this up. And inside here, we're going to add a few more details. So the first thing that we're going to do is create the durations. I'm going to link that up dynamic. I'm going to link that up to our current items amount of days. So that's the amount of days that the task in the task template takes to complete, which is the duration. Then we are going to have our offset days, which we just created in the tasks. I'm going to set that to dynamic as well. And then that is going to be our offset amount of days. And then if I update this, we can then go back over to our interface, click on done, and we can just test this out quickly, right? So if I move this back to empty, and then let's move this back again to road mapping, it's going to run through everything that it needs to do. It's going to create all of our tasks here, right? And then if we come into our data view, you'll see these are all of our new tasks, right, down here. And if I come over to the right-hand side, you can see that it's pulled through the project start date. It's pulled through all the SOPs and everything here. It's pulled through our offset days from the project start date, which has enabled us to calculate the start date of each one of these tasks. And then it's also pulled through the duration, so the amount of days that these tasks will take. All right, so we're getting close now. We're getting close. All that we now need to do is print this calculated start date into our start date field when the task is created. And then because it has the duration, it will automatically create the end date for us. So we're going to come into automations, and then we're going to create one more automation. And again, I always get this bug again, so I have to refresh the page, which is annoying. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to do when a record is created, and we're going to use tasks. We are going to want to update the task record, so the new record that's been created. So we're going to go to the tasks table again. You're going to take the record ID of the record that's been created, and then we're going to update that record. We're going to update the start date here, and we're going to dynamically update it with the calculated start date. All right. So this one is pretty simple, this automation, but this just prints that second start date or the actual start date so that we can then use that start date within things like the timeline view and all that kind of good stuff. So now if I turn the interface on, we come back into our project management, and we'll do this one last time, right? So this time I'm going to delete all of these again. And then I'm going to clear this project type. And then if I click on road mapping one more time, it's going to create all of those tasks. It's going to order them properly. And now you can see it populating all the start dates and the end dates. And then you can see if I move the start date of this one here to the 19th, it then moves the end date to the 19th. And again, it's based off of the duration in days, right? So it starts on the 19th. It takes 1 day to complete. So the end date is the 19th as well. If I was to change that to like 2 days to complete, then it would change it to the 20th. So that is how you create start and end date dependencies and linkage that up to the project templates. There are ways to, implement task dependencies and all that kind of good stuff by using scripts within Airtable in the automations, and also you could use make.com to also do those automations as well, which I would recommend if you're using Airtable and Make as a combo. But again, for this video, I just wanted to keep everything as like simple Airtable native as possible. And I think we've pushed the boundaries there, right? That was quite complex, that end piece there. Hopefully I'll explain that okay. But that's about it for this video. Now we've got our full CRM set up here. We've got our project management set up. We've got the systems here to start running a business, to run a productized service. And it's not perfect because there are things that we can tweak and make better, but that's going to happen over time, right? This is about getting the foundations in place of your system, getting all of your critical business information in one place, all your task information, all of your SOPs, all of your CRM data. Next, we're going to go on to customer service module and how to handle tickets that are submitted by customers and manage those through to completion. And then we've got our core operating system that can house all of our business information, our key critical business information, so that we can then layer on AI and automation to make this a super machine that can, complete tasks more efficiently. We can use AI assistants to help us, perform some of these audits, create reports, all that kind of good stuff. But if we don't have all this stuff in place first, this foundational stuff, then we're just building a bunch of AI workflows on top of kind of janky systems, right? So having stuff like this layered out first is the key piece that most businesses are missing right now. I hope this has been useful. I know it's been a long one. Thanks for sticking with me. And yeah, if you want to jump in and get stuck into building out systems like this, check out the community below. It's now free to join. I just want to get more members into the community and start having interesting conversations. You can download this whole template, this whole KoreOS template that I'm building, and you can start customizing it for yourself. So yeah, if you don't want to build it all from scratch, right? But hopefully you've learned something in this video, and stay tuned, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.